We're back, baby, just like the Terminator. It is Wrestling Daft, the Marks. And how are we today? My name is John. I present this show. I hail from Larbert. Currently weighing in probably about 180 something pounds. We'll just say 80 something pounds at the moment. And I am joined by my fellow Marks every week. Well, not every week, because that means we'd have done shows the last 2 weeks. We've not done a show in 3 weeks. But they are back. We've got the band back together. It feels like new kids. Maybe that's aging us a wee bit. Gary, Blue. It feels like Blue have got back.
I've no much better, in all honesty. They're still about 20-year-olds.
Busted. It was like there's three of us, so it's like busted.
There you go. Is Charlie
busted.
not doing other things now? I believe Charlie started like 8 other bands since Busted went down.
Oh no,
Busted have since reformed, and the last reform was about 4 years ago because I seen them at a festival because they were the secret band.
Was that not Mick? Was that not Mick Busted, or was that actually?
No,
just
they came back after that again,
That's
after the thing with McFly. Aye, but still not.
I do
That's
think
still
I
like
can-
a Vince McMahon reference.
I do think for some reason I can actually recite most of the lyrics to the year 3000 by Busted. I don't know why.
You have the stage, Alex. You have the stage.
Okay, here we go. Let's see what I can do. Is it one day when I came home at lunchtime, I heard a funny sound, went out to the backyard to find out it was one of those frat boys. Stood there, it was my neighbour called Peter in a flux capacitor. He told me he built a time machine like a one in a film I'd seen. Yeah. And so on in verse. And I think that's pretty good, actually.
Well played. A round of applause there for Alex. Absolutely fantastic. I have major issues with that song, however. You know the line that goes, your great-great-great-granddaughter. Now, that wouldn't be the year 3000, my friends. That would be like somewhere, probably, I would say about 21.
2100, 200 area.
Yeah,
we don't know what's going to happen to modern medicine.
They might have cryo chambers that would freeze the great-great-great-granddaughter for 800 more years.
They didn't say that in the song, though, Gary. I'm just wanting
They
to point
could all be cyberpunks as well, like all implanted with shit to make them live longer. There's plenty of possibilities here.
Listen, someone get Charlie.
My least favourite thing, and here's an obscure reference because I don't know if any of you will know the band, but my least favourite thing about that song is that they ripped off a song by a band called Simple Plan. Because Simple Plan have a song called One Day that's the literal exact same riff as so aye.
So
that's my promo and Busted.
Right, okay, so we're basically saying that Busted are thieves. Is that what we're saying now here on the podcast?
Aye, and McFly are better as well.
Oh, you went there! I can't believe you went there. Wow. Right, anyway.
McFly were in a Lindsay Lohan film, that's why.
Brilliant. Let me introduce... God almighty. Right, so we've started off with Lindsay Lohan and Busted. Let me introduce the two fine gentlemen that I have with you, as if they need no introduction. Let's welcome a man bigger than Scotland's current COVID numbers. It's Big Alex.
Just while we're on the topic of Lindsay Lohan, can I just say that Rachel McAdams was the better actress in Mean Girls, and her career since has proved that. But yes,
I would interject and say that Amanda Seyfried was even better.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. I think Rachel McAdams had some better lead roles. Like I always remember Amanda Seyfried for like comedy roles, like in Ted and things like that.
No, she
Mamma Mia and all that stuff.
I've never seen Mamma Mia.
She was in that film with Kevin Bacon that was on Netflix recently.
She's been in something else recently. She's been in a series I've watched. I can't remember. That man there, however, talking about Amanda Seyfried, is a man who's become obsessed with Mountain Dew in the last week. It's Inside the Ropes lead writer. It's Gary Cassidy, ladies and gentlemen.
Aye, one of the ones where I went to the shop and seen a can. I like watermelon stuff anyway, but I seen a can of juice that I was like, oh, I remember 2 months ago. I think 2 months ago, I seen all the wrestling journalists in America, because they get a better end of the deal, were getting sent out these free packages. And the package was a pink box with Mountain Dew on it. And it had a can of Mountain Dew, a calculator, and a figure of John Cena wearing a Hawaiian shirt because he is the guy in the advert for Mountain Dew Melon, Major or Major Melon. So I picked that up and then was like, oh, there's another 2 flavours I've never seen. I'll just pick them up. Hadn't drink fizzy juice in ages, and then the downward spiral is oh dear.
Started. That DDP yoga is going to go out the window.
Have they made like some kind of connection between Major and like John Cena wearing some kind of military gear? Or have they
he's literally in a Hawaiian shirt, sitting in like a Lamborghini or something in the advert. It's got 0 to date. I think he might wear dog tags, which are on the can, but it's like there was a better connection you could have made here.
They missed a real trick by Major Melon and making him all military themed and making John Cena wear some kind of Melon military-esque uniform. I think it'd be
if you are listening, executives at Mountain Dew, to this podcast, there you go, and we'll be taking some of the money. I'll act as agent for Alex.
Don't have any money left after they've paid John Cena. He's fucking expensive.
Damn, they won't.
I'll take payment and product. I'm no fussy.
Right,
it was quite good. So.
Right, okay then, there we go. Mountain Dew, if you want to sponsor the show, that would be very much appreciated. So what have we missed, gentlemen? There's a few things we missed, I think, that we need to discuss, probably from more of a Scottish angle as well. We had the debut of Piper Niven, a.k.a. Viper, a.k.a. now Dewdrop. What have we made of it? Vince is apparently hot on her.
The name,
really good, apart from the name.
As long as that's temporary, we're fine.
I think it's
I was going to say I think it is temporary because people were losing their minds about it, but then the first time they introduced it, they kind of had it where Eva Marie gave her that name and she didn't look too happy about it. So
yeah, it feels like they're kind of used that for storyline to split up her and Eva Marie down the line. So let's give them some. Let's be hopeful.
Apart from that, like perfect positioning for her to be in. So
yes, I think it seems like they're rushing through that very quickly though, from the standpoint of you think this might have months and months, maybe a year with her as the bodyguard, and like a Virgil $1 Million Man situation, but it seems to be already, there seems to be dissension. It's very strange.
It's as if they've just got bored of Eva Marie already. They were like, do you know what? She didn't really do anything last time. Let's just get her away from it. It's not really...
Yeah.
I think the Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss thing has thrown a span on the works because I get a feeling that much of that was okayed very late on, and then they've just went, oh shit, we've got too many stories, cram them all into the one short space of time.
And talking of Nikki Cross, she's now a superhero.
I love that. I know that a lot of people are a wee bit, about it, but for me, the main thing is she wasn't doing a great deal of stuff before. It's been one of the ones where we're going, she's so underutilized. Like when she was in NXT, it's the kind of thing where her character was so good, but then when you go in the main roster, you kind of need to be cutting promos and stuff, and that character didn't lend itself to that.
Yeah.
I think the thing that she's doing now, while it came out the blue, while the name is a bit no ideal, I think the best thing about that is that it seems like it's her idea. She's really passionate about it. The guy that drew up the blueprint is the guy that made my wee logo, so big up to Rob Downey. He's great, and I just think that when you've got that much passion about something, it's probably no gonna fail. I think it's a brilliant character. We've seen Molly Holly do it. We've seen Hurricane do it. Why not bring it back? I think it's good.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Alex?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think she looks like she's having fun while doing the character. And the one thing I've always said about Alexa Bliss is regardless of how much the character stinks, her acting's really good. And I think there's the same kind of goes for Nikki Cross, and they're kind of at least elevating characters. But
I was waiting on me putting that over something awful, and Alex just going, shite.
No, I still like it. I think it is. I like the nostalgia of it as well. I like the links back to the classic wrestling superhero kind of character. I mean, there's a little bit of worry that it does get slightly too gimmicky, especially with the Alexa Bliss stuff and with the connections between Cross and Bliss. You can see that just melding into one big steaming pile of shite. But for the time being, I think we can be hopeful again, like with Piper Niven. Do you know what I mean? It's a sort of a new storyline. Let's be nice. Although the one thing that we're less hopeful for is, of course, Killian Dane's WWE future.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Let's get on. We've had a few releases since we last spoke as well. Alex, you mentioned Killian Dane there. Singh Brothers, Tony Nese, Everrise. Oh my God, please get my handkerchiefs out. Breezango! I can't believe it. What are they doing? Everrise and Breezango, two of the best bits about NXT, and they've got rid of them. Oh.
How long were Everrise in NXT? It feels as though they were like always just on the cusp of becoming a thing and never actually becoming a thing. But I don't think they've been around that long.
I think their downfall as well, similar to Chelsea Green and several other people, is that they've been given a new contract. So you can only think that it's been, Dana Brooke crunching numbers time, looking at it and going, do you know what, they're earning a wee bit too much for what they're doing now. And I think, annoyingly, I think Breezango were probably the same because they'd have been on bumper main roster contracts. So annoying, but sadly. And Killian Dane as well, probably, actually. He'd have probably still been on a SmackDown contract. But
Singh Brothers as well, I'm guessing.
So I guess it was just, big outlays of money when they've been, revolving door into it. WWE's just bringing in people constantly, so I guess they can afford to. I think the past few rounds of releases has shown them that nobody's irreplaceable and that nobody's really going to go somewhere and make them absolutely shite themselves yet until Braun Strowman turns up.
Yeah, Yeah, it's really, really sad to see, and hopefully...
No, the other big one's the end of 205, which is obviously the big reason they need to trim everything down, as they now have too many people.
Last week, 205 Live had a match with two guys that are about £50 over 205 on it. As the match had what's his name, Joe Gacy, and another guy that's absolutely massive.
I think it's been a suggested weight limit for a while.
But they probably just rebrand it to NXT 2 or something.
I was going to say they're continuing with 205, aren't they?
Oh, I thought they said they cancelled 205.
No, I think it's imminent, but it's definitely still going. It got recorded the last week, and the main thing I was looking at was have they still got the purple ropes and stuff like that, and they did still have, everything still looked like 205 Live, apart from the competitors were over 205. But I bet a dodgy one.
Yeah. Best of luck, obviously, in everybody's future endeavours. With that, Gary, have you had any more word of? Is that the end of the releases? Have you got a tip off? There's going to be any more, or is it just like who knows?
We've still not had any of the ones that keep getting rumoured for NXT UK. So that's the weird one. I think I mentioned a few weeks ago that we had somebody. Thankfully, they didn't report on it, but a wrestling journalist came to me and asked me about something to try and sound out and see if I'd heard about it, and that was about NXT UK releases. And the top name on the list was Piper Niven. So you can see that didn't happen. So I always think, I mention it every time it comes up. For the recording schedule, for what they do, for the payment that they get, again, I don't want to job out NXT UK talents, but they're not on the mind-blowing wages that a lot of people would assume that WWE superstars are on, just because they don't, they're not live every week. They're doing like batches of recordings. I think it would be low on the list of priorities, but you never know. They're cutting the fat everywhere, WWE, ahead of a potential sale, as far as we keep hearing. So
that's what we do keep hearing. Any other business, gentlemen? Anything you wish to discuss from the world of wrestling over the last couple of weeks? Alex, AEW, we'll get to, obviously, when we get to the buddies and put-overs. Anything from there that you want to remark upon?
I don't think we've really had any particularly big AEW news, to be honest. It's just been steady, fast TV. It's been, I think the big thing we have to highlight was their big emotional piece at the end of Dynamite this week with like the homage to Daly's Place, which gave us all a tear to everyone's eyes. And
it was fine as soon as you stopped watching the second that video package ended and didn't hear JR's commentary line, which has been edited out of the...
We'll just not talk. I was going to kind of like technically not mention that for as long as possible.
Gary, what about yourself? Anything from the last couple of weeks you want to remark upon?
Well, literally 2 hours ago, it's emerged that Jimmy Uso's been arrested in a DUI again. So
we'll talk more about that when we get to the news.
I haven't heard about this. Oh, the big dog's going to be.
There we go. So we'll get the buddies and put-overs. AEW, I'm sure we'll hear more about the last show at Daly's Place with Alex and the buddies and put-overs. When we get to the news with Gary, we're definitely going to hear about Jimmy Uso's DUI. We will, of course, be hooking up with our tag team, our Mark tag team of Rico and Bronze Shell, the New Age Mark as we take a look back at the shows. Before we cut a promo, though, I think we need to lighten the mood with a joke of the week from the musings of Mr. Gary Cassidy.
Yeah, so actually, I will be honest and say I forgot about this up until about 2 minutes before I clicked on the link. But luckily, I can just share an anecdote for last week, because I actually decided I was going to sell my Hoover.
Oh, good.
I was just sitting there was just collecting dust.
Brilliant. That joke sucked. Hey!
I'm going to distance myself from this as much as possible, gentlemen.
Right. Okay.
If my dad heard me telling that joke, he would say, "Die, son."
Alex has just left. Alex has actually just left. Oh dear. But we'll see if he'll come back. But let's cut a promo first.
I have a lot of things I want to get off my chest.
Right, gentlemen. Scotland out of the Euros. That's what's happened in the last 2 weeks. I went to the Croatia game. It was heartbreaking. That's why I didn't have the show 2 weeks ago. Gary went to the Sweden game with his Swedish girlfriend last week, and that's why we couldn't do the show last week. Again, heartbreaking as well. It was a terrible game of football as well, Gary.
The worst part is that if we'd have just lost in 90 minutes, I could have got home half an hour earlier. Instead, I had to see the latest goal in Euros history.
And then the Ukraine didn't do much better, did they?
No, that's the double heartbreak where I'm like, if Sweden had faced England, they probably wouldn't have get pumped as much. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad that I didn't have that risk of seeing Sweden getting pumped off England. Yeah. So I'm glad that we're renaming the show this week to Wrestling Daft the Denmarks.
Yes, we're all Denmark. Apologies to our English listeners. But yes,
English listeners we've just lost. Okay.
It runs me into a little promo I'd like to call about Ingerland, right? Ingerland, right?
I'm glad all the English folk have tuned out now before you cut.
Right, if you are English, please just push that little, that little 15-second button on the podcast. Push that a couple of times, because I'm going to get into it, because, we're a little bit, we don't like to hold grudges up here in Scotland, about tyranny and all that sort of stuff hundreds of years ago. But I would just like to say, come on, BBC, come on, ITV. God, I'm watching Spain versus Italy. I'm watching Belgium versus Italy. I'm watching North Macedonia versus... And the first thing, you can run it by the minute. Forget going into Paddy Power and booking the, putting a bet on the goal scorer or, the scoreline. You just put a bet on when is the first time they'll mention 1966. There should be a market on that, because it's just ridiculous and it's just overhyped. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. I think the English football team, as now, they all seem lovely lads. Most of them, Marcus Rashford, salute him. He's done a fantastic job for the community, fantastic job for the kids. Gareth Southgate seems like a lovely gentleman. Seems like
back that fucking waistcoat. Sorry.
Yeah, he rocks a waistcoat, and they all seem nice enough fellas. There's not the dickheads.
Jordan Henderson. Feel inclined to mention as a Liverpool fan.
Okay, well, Jordan, you get Jordan Henderson. They all seem, but it's the media. It's the media. It's the touched Harry's balls to make England win. All this nonsense. It's Mark fucking Pougatch. I cannot stand Mark.
I hate Mark Pougatch.
What a fucking arsehole of a man. I'm sure he's a lovely fella as well, but he comes across like a right heel. So yeah, I'm just want to cut a promo really on the English media and the overhype. And I sincerely hope, now I just want to check that the English listeners haven't just jogged in, skip another 15 seconds on your podcast. I sincerely hope we are not sitting here next week and England have won the Euros. I don't think we'll be able to stand it. The world will implode if that has happened. So, yeah, English media, just calm yourselves down, will you? Every week, well, I say every week, we've missed the last 2 weeks, so whenever we fancy doing the podcast, we look back at the big wrestling shows of the week. Myself, I take a look at NXT. Alex takes a look at AEW. Gary, are we still on a Raw ban?
No, I've started. I'm skipping through it, so it's very concise Raw notes.
Right, okay. So
it's got better over the past couple of weeks.
Right, okay. So
while we decided to stop the podcast, it got good, and then it's going to get shite again as we go forward.
We curse it. That's what it is. We curse Raw.
Gary's back on Raw then this week, and we invite our unchallenged, undefeated, undisputed Mark tag team, the New Age Mark Claus, Mr. Bronze Chill, Mr. Rico, and they come on and do SmackDown for us. How are you, gentlemen?
All good yourselves?
Good, thank you very much. Enjoy your last 2 weeks of holiday. Still no one's wanting to come up to the challenge.
Do people know how to challenge?
Yeah, you can easily challenge.
Your promo scared them off, I think, man. That was what happened.
Yeah, exactly. They're just walking in fear. If you do want to come on and do SmackDown, the challenge is out there. The boys have got the gauntlet thrown down every single week. You'll get us at Wrestling Daft on Twitter or at wrestlingdaft@gmail.com. The gauntlet's always down there. But for now, let's proceed with the gentlemen and SmackDown. But let's kick off with last Wednesday night, or last Tuesday. God, I keep forgetting this moved to Tuesday now. It really freaks me out. And it was NXT, and we're building to the Great American Bash, which is on tonight as we record this podcast. Let's go to, first of all, a Bury. Now, I am not a big fan of triple threat tag team matches, there's just too many people. There's too many things. There's too much going on. In saying that, it was a cracking match, but there's incidences in these big multi-man matches where people get knocked out the ring, and then you just see them, like, for example, Zoe Stark popped her head up, and it was just like up over the ring and just saying, "Oh, is it my spot yet?" Nope. Duck back down again, and you could see that. And I just hate that people just milling around the ring while these spots are going on in the ring. And I'm not a big fan of big multi-man matches. I think probably triple threat is probably about as far as I can go. But even then, you end up with this whole, someone goes out the ring so somebody can get their shit in the ring. So this opened the show. Not a big fan, but it was a really good match. I'll come back to it later on, but I just want to say that now. Never a big fan of that, I think, that sort of stuff. So that is the first buddy. Can we? We'll come back to that. Let's go to a put over and put some positivity on it. Roddy Strong is back, which is great. Yeah, it's good that Roddy Strong is back. Has a new style, has a bit of a new look, but let's go to another buddy, the Diamond Mine. What? We've got a group, another stable, yet another stable in NXT. We seem to have lots of stables going on in NXT. We seem probably even more in AEW at the moment. It seems.
Oh, don't you be silly now, John. Don't you be silly. That's not possible.
I know. There's lots of stabling going on, and yeah, it's. I don't know about this Diamond Mine. I like Malcolm Bivens. He's a great promo. I think he's a great mouthpiece. But we've got three guys looking like they have some sort of MMA style.
And they lost a lot of their members before they even got off the ground since they got released, because Arturo Ruiz was meant to be, and he's a big MMA guy. And there was talk of like a few of the cruiserweights being in it, Marina Shafir being in it, who's obviously Roderick Strong's wife. Yeah. So it just seems like they kind of went, "Oh no, we need to do this," and then released folk, and then they're like, "We'll still do it anyway."
I don't get it. I don't know where they're going to go with it. I don't know how far they're going to push it. It'll be interesting.
Could we not have just had Bivens with Strong and Shafir? Or would that not have been like a cracking way to go about it? And you could have went fully in on the MMA style, and you could have used this whole gimmick, but instead it doesn't make sense. Sorry, John.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So yeah, Diamond Mine's another buddy there, I have to say. Let's go to our put over. Boa! He's back, baby. And at that point, let's go to Fashion Corner and let's just shine a light on Boa's ring gear, because I think it's fantastic. He unveiled it. We're in with Boa in the ring, even though it was a mixed tag match. I've got a funny feeling we're going to see more of Boa going forward, and we're all very excited about that. So that's my biggest put over. And I have to say, very scary moment in the ring. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but Xia Li kicked Mercedes Martinez in the head, and hopefully she's recovering. I believe she is, Gary. Is that right? She
was apparently in hospital afterwards to get some checks, but I think no heard anything since, so that's normally good news. Normally, if you don't get an injury update in a week, it's fine.
You could tell as soon as she hit it, her body just flopped like that. It was just horrible to watch.
At first, I didn't really see the kick at first, and I was like, "That's some sale, by the way. She's sold that." And then I realised, "Oh no, wait, she's just unconscious."
They kept showing replays of it.
It went on the WWE social media account, and it stayed up as well. I was like, "That's some sale, by the way," because they normally don't highlight when it's something that actually goes wrong. So,
I know. And just, if you'll allow me in our final put over, now this is happening. It's the Great American Bash today. And the biggest thing, and it wouldn't be my section without mentioning Cameron Grimes and LA Knight. We've got a match going on tonight where Cameron Grimes will become LA Knight's butler if he loses. Now, there's only going to be a one winner because those skits are going to be fantastic. So we're really hoping that LA Knight wins tonight and Cameron Grimes becomes his butler, because that's going to be brilliant going forward with that.
On that, I think it's worth a berry that we're getting Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly again. No needed. Why? I don't.
The Kyle O'Reilly character, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I just don't know. They just don't seem to know what they want to do with him. He's just cookie guy, or he's a hard guy, or I don't know.
I don't mind it, just don't pair him with Adam Cole, because it just means you're going to stick in that it's going to be stagnant if you're going to put him back in a rivalry that ended emphatically.
Unless Bobby Fish gets involved in some way, but then that's just back
again. It's too late. It's over.
Yeah, it's too late. You're right, Alex. You're absolutely right. And match of the night. I'd buried it at the start, but I'm going to have to say the multi-women tag team I thought was really, really, really good. And I'm sure, I'm pretty sure the actual the match itself with Io and Zoe Stark and Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez is going to be a cracker. Oh, sorry, against the way. Sorry, yeah, that's going to be a really, really good match. So, yes, putting that over as my match of the night. Going over to AEW, we alluded to it at the start, talking about the last show at Daly's place, but it won't be the last show, but they're kind of going back to on the road. Alex, what?
Yeah, they're looking at life back on the road. They made a big deal about the last show in Daly's place, as it has very much become their home after QT Marshall's creepy dark gym since the beginning of the pandemic. So they had a lovely wee video package to see that off. And I mean, since Gary alluded to earlier, there was a little salesman who was trying to sell tickets to said show. And I believe his line was along the lines of, "There is nothing in your life that will top seeing a live WWE Dynamite." So thanks, Jim, for some terrific advertising for your new employers there. But that's the last we will mention of that. As JR has actually been pretty good these last couple of months. Like I've noticed, no one's really been moaning about him. He's managed to cut that shit out since the WWE champion Kenny Omega. But I mean, well, he slipped again. And it was a bit unfortunate. It was like right at the end of Dynamite. So it was just, I mean, if it had been halfway through or something, you could have gotten over it. But it was just literally the last thing they said. So
it was edited out for the ITV broadcast.
I'm on the fight.
They just ended it after the package. So
it's still too late. But on to the actual show. So we got the big tease of potentially the Omega Page rivalry starting. We've got Darby and Scorpio probably about in the midpoint of their feud. The IC Pinnacle are going all trios on us. And even the big Team Taz rivalry is really starting to build up with Brian Cage versus Ricky Starks next week. But more importantly, it's time to fucking talk about hair. So this week we had a couple of new additions. First of all, AEW World Heavyweight Champion Mr. Kenny Omega has gone full-on Harley Race with a beautiful handlebar. I saw a lot of people were comparing him to Triple H, but I think you said on Twitter, Gary, I'm assuming you've seen this, that it was Harley Race inspired.
Yeah, it still looks like Lemmy though, but
it's still a bit. No, it's not long.
Like Lemmy Omega.
Like I always think. Okay, why didn't you use that joke previously? But it needs to be longer to be Lemmy. I always think of Lemmy as like a proper, like gruff amount of beard, but not. Matt Jackson can grow an okay mustache, but of course, the man, the myth, the legend that is Nick Jackson just comes out with a fucking Sheeran Hulk Hogan bad boy. So I mean, respect to Nick Jackson. That was a terrific mustache. And while we're quickly in Fashion Corner, did anyone else catch Sammy Guevara's like velour leopard print tights that he had in the main event? Top notch. Miro's also kind of got a little bit of a new presentation as well. Like they seem to have ripped all the Mess Man stuff away. And I noticed when they started trying to call him the Reminder or something, that I could have missed that. But that pissed me off when I first put over. That was a terrible segue. I apologize. Because I want to put over Mr. Brian Pillman Jr. I think he's been, since he's kind of come into AEW, I was quite surprised how legitimate the Varsity Blondes have been since their arrival, and even, of course, getting the third in the name of the woman I can't remember. My bad.
Julia Hart.
Sorry?
Julia Hart.
That's the one. And like I think Brian's been terrific, like on the mic as well. For the last couple of weeks, they've been giving him some promo time in the ring. They've been great. They were really good against the Bucks, and I thought he looked like a proper kind of like mid-tier wrestler up against Miro. And I also watched the Dark Side of the Ring stuff quite recently, where they did a really good two-parter on his dad. And again, do you know what I mean? He seems legitimately inspired by the man, and only had positive things to say about him. So big up Brian Pillman. I thought he was terrific. So more of him, please. And in the meantime, speaking of someone who's terrible in the ring, why did we have Vicky Guerrero in a ring this week? Did we need it? Have we built to like having the big moment where Vicky gets her comeuppance? The answer to all of them is no. So going to put it in the bin. I'm fine with there being a mouthpiece, but after this week, I'm slightly concerned that this is going to become a little bit of a regular, and they might even try and push like a Vicky Guerrero, Nyla Rose tag team or something stupid like that. But I've seen crazier things.
I don't mind as long as they keep it away from Andrade. You can swap it for that, and I'll accept the lesser of those two evils. If you even make a women's champion, nah, don't do that. Don't go that far.
Destroy the entire division for Andrade. Maybe,
maybe not.
Maybe a bit harsh. It's maybe a bit harsh. But on to the main talk of wrestling for the week. My put over and match of the night was just MJF versus Sammy Guevara. It was fucking terrific from beginning to start. Like, they started off with a terrific bit of mat wrestling. Like, it's in Scotland, we've obviously been singing "Yes Sir, We Can Boogie," but I think this was these two just crying out, "Yes Sir, we can fucking wrestle." And I think we all forget how agile MJF can be when he wants to be. Like, he could go and join 205 Live with a moveset like that. He could. And some of the highlights that we had coming through was even MJF biting Sammy's fingers just full on in front of the referee. And I really like the way Jericho on commentary was talking about that he knows the ref isn't going to end it because it's too important of a match. Then we had Sammy following up with a lovely wee Cuban destroyer from the outside of the ring. MJF's ultimate commitment to just nailing himself over the ring ropes before taking a senton. But to end it all off, I have to say, that Sean Spears chair orgasm shot, just the shot pan of his face, just looking like what I hope Peyton Royce gives him on the weekends. And it was just the best way they could have possibly ended that match. Like, can we have more of this? Like, Sean Spears looking like he needs to change his pants after a chair shot. It was just really on character, and I thought it was a terrific way to end the match in terms of interference, having Wardlow kind of cordon off Jericho and then Spears appear as well. So cheap finish, but do you know what I mean? MJF was never losing that match, and they got to the finish the only way they could without killing Sammy. So fair play.
Have we had enough of Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle now? Can we move on from this?
I'm hoping this trios match next week kind of ends it, to be honest. But I mean, I did actually see.
Then who's next for either? It would need to be Dark Order, wouldn't it? There's not like any other faction that's got more than 3 members.
I mean, they can feud them individually. I mean, it's like Santana and Ortiz can easily drop in and out of the tag team division. It's kind of what you do with Hager. But then again, Hager is, I'd argue he's a bit part-time. That's because he's doing his MMA stuff. And I think they're using that as part of his gimmick. So you don't actually really need to put Hager into a program, I would argue. But it could be a good match. And also, since we weren't here the week they did it, big up to Hager and Wardlow for that MMA cage match they did a couple of weeks ago.
Do you like that, Alex?
I thought they did well. I don't want it all the time, but it was better than I think they. It was more interesting than if they'd have just done a traditional match. Yeah, it was a fitting stipulation to that situation.
It was a bit weird, I thought. It was a bit.
It's the kind of match that always has a ceiling, I think. It's never going to be like the greatest match ever. It's always going to be a bit.
It's like, if you're going to do it, either do it properly. I think you should do it. I'll do it. It was a real kind of halfway house of like pro wrestling and MMA, and it didn't really work for me. But that's just my personal opinion.
I'd like to see them pair Wardlow with the other big men. Let's get Wardlow in there with Archer. Let's get Wardlow in there with Miro. I think that's going to be a true test of how good Wardlow can be, because I think he's been terrific. He's been a big standout for me this year.
Do you know, I just saw a tweet before we came on air, actually, an interesting one from Alex McCarthy.
Seen that as well. I know what you're going to say about the future champions.
So the kind of progression of the W title. So he sort of said, right, it'd go Kenny to Hangman, Hangman to MJF, MJF to Wardlow. Do you think that's
the Batista Triple H? That's all I'm going to say on that. That'll be the big moment with a thumbs down or something like that, because of the way they've paired them. The only person to be MJF has to be Wardlow.
I think it depends on the length of the reigns as well, because I think the story is perfect for him to take it off MJF, but it's whether he'll be ready in that time. And also, I think you're missing it. I'm not sure if you mentioned Adam Page, Hangman Adam Page taking it off. So that would fit. But then at the same time, there's so many people that aren't there in that lineage that would need to have it before then, like a Jungle Boy. I'd say Jungle Boy and Darby Allin, and there's so many people that would. But again, you could have Wardlow have a short reign and one of them take it off him and be fine.
I'm kind of like 6.5 how far they go with the Page, or how long we see the Page Omega rivalry, because there's a potential they run this until Christmas, and this is a 6-year program. Or the 6-year fucking, sorry. That's what Inner Circle.
It would feel like
Pinnacle feels like 6-year program. But yeah, no, Christ, I've lost my point now with my own thing. Yes, so they could either run it really quite a long time, or there has been quite a lot of talk about Kenny's health recently. So there's also the chance that maybe they do that quite quickly, and in which case I think that's when the lineage would need to change. I think you do need a bit more time before you get to MJF Page.
I think you only extend it if you want to do the blow off at Revolution, just because of that being where they had that brilliant match last year. But at the same time, it's not needed. Just do it quick. Get it on done. We will want the Adam Hangman Page champion run, title run. So,
do you think they're going to take the belt off Kenny that quickly?
Okay, they need to take it off him so Impact can.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Let's move over to SmackDown then, gentlemen. Paul, we'll come to you first, and your first buddy of the night, sir.
So this is probably like my last night in the Thunderdome, because obviously they go next week. And I was told to boo Baron Corbin, and I got told off for cheering him. So obviously they don't know that right now.
Rico's enraged.
Yeah. So obviously we're card carrying members of the Baron Corbin fan club. So I wasn't very happy with that. But yeah, Seth Rollins' silver jacket was shite as well.
Would you have been allowed to boo Corbin if you were wearing a piece of Corbin merchandise? Do you think that means you're allowed? Because then otherwise, how would you sell your Corbin merchandise, Mr. WWE?
Yeah, so when I was in there for the Royal Rumble, I was wearing my head of the table t-shirt, and I was told to boo Roman as well. So
see, it doesn't make sense. They're like going against their own marketing strategy there.
Yeah, so I'm very glad that fans are back next week. Cheer who you want, boo who you want. Like, it's, getting told to cheer and boo is a bit crap. So.
And it seems like I thought we were getting a wee bit of, not like it wasn't a face turn, but it seems like we were getting a wee bit of almost getting to a face turn for Baron Corbin. So I'm surprised about that.
You're feeling a little bit of sympathy for Baron Corbin, aren't you?
He's brilliant. He's playing I love the trying to sell the watch gimmick. I think he's playing it perfectly. I think it's absolutely amazing. But of course I do. It's Baron Corbin. Come on.
Of course. Of course. So, Buddy, just the Thunderdome, or just in general then, Paul, and get put over.
I'm very glad that fans is back next week. Like, it's it's done with. I heard as well that Raw for next week is taped last week, so hopefully they're going to do some sort of angle where they blow it up or anything. Just be done with it. It's done.
That would be good if they blow it up. Yeah, I'm totally up for that. Like,
because then it's going to be Alexa Bliss or the Fiend blowing it up.
Oh, be the Fiend.
Then you can get the Fiend back, or at least see Bray Wyatt for the first time in however long it takes to see a Bray Wyatt.
3 months.
Yeah.
No, 6 months. Has it not been like, WrestleMania, but it was a
aye. About 6 months if you don't count WrestleMania.
Yeah. Rico, let's come to you for your first put over.
Okay. So it's obviously been a couple of weeks since we've been on the show, and there's a very, very obvious return of a certain superstar. I'm going to bleed in Bronze's point and say it's Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin's fucking back. Baron Corbin. King Corbin's all of this shite. Get out of here. You better wear out you're better wear out the king, my man. I love this new direction that he's going to be going in. He's gone from a king to a pauper, as you said there. He's selling his watch. He's saying he's losing his stocks and his shares and whatnot. And listen, if you are out there, Baron Corbin, we will do a whip round for you. Get some money. Don't you worry about it, son. I really like everything that is going on with him. There's like a lot of sort of attention to detail just on his way to the ring as well. Like, he's stopped shaving his head. He's grown out his beard. I want to see him looking like a hobo.
Can we get a promo package of Baron Corbin just lying around the various streets that they're in that week, or would that be slightly politically?
I don't think you can get away with that. Maybe their attitude era. I don't think in this stage you can get away with that.
I think the only thing about I love that Baron Corbin got his name back, but the only thing is that, like, they have to balance it. They've gave Nakamura King Nakamura, and it's like, just call him the King of Strong Style. It's literally right there.
Do they not call him King Shke instead of Shinsuke?
I didn't even feel that.
Yeah, I think I read that and I was like, I'm immediately annoyed with what you have done.
I think they called it the Kinshasa as well when they hit the Kinshasa. So it's,
actually, that's quite good. That's all right. I don't mind that.
We need to get Michael Cole as far away from Shinsuke Nakamura as possible before this continues.
So the detail of that was cool, and there was another wee funny bit. Like, it just carries on with Baron Corbin just having funny segments as well. Like, in the middle of the match, the tag match, Rick Boogs, and it was announcing that someone's car was getting towed, and he read out the number plate KNG-CR-BN, and Pat McAfee just goes, "Who has a King Crabbin license plate?" And it's just
That's a great line.
some more good comedy. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes now, and I'm kind of hoping it ends up with Baron Corbin just getting sympathy, as you were saying before, and
They should, in theory, this should end with him, and I know that they've done it and it didn't end well, but this should have him win the Money in the Bank briefcase. That would be the perfect way to cap off that story, but then we know that it would just end with him cashing in on it unsuccessfully again. So, I'm
totally okay with that, though. Imagine if his whole story arc from now until the end of his career is he consistently, like every 5 years, he wins Money in the Bank and fucks up. And that can be his whole thing.
Let's come back to the mirror smash, which Gary's got.
The mirror smash. I forget how long ago it was now. A year and a month. It was Money in the Bank last year, so I think May, June. So we're 6 years left.
Broadchill, have you got a put over for us?
So these days, genuine surprises are few and far between with all the spoilers that's going around on the internet. Sonya Deville announced Zelina Vega for the Money in the Bank. So she'd been heavily rumoured for going to AEW. I try and stay away from spoilers. It's great to see her back, but she's literally back in the door, and Liv Morgan beat her. Liv beat her to further on her storyline for wanting to get into Money in the Bank. So now she's beat Carmella and she's beaten Liv Morgan. So I'd probably expect for her to be announced this week for Money in the Bank.
And let's just note Zelina Vega also taking to Twitter to moan about dirt sheets, putting out misinformation when everything that's been reported about her has came to fruition.
Mm-hmm. And
all playing the game.
She obviously deleted that tweet saying that she heavily supported unionization as well, which was reported. So yeah, it's
She also started appearing on the WWE official Twitch account by any chance?
No, not yet. But Aleister Black has been the only person that's been on her Twitch account since. So
interesting.
I think
he's feeling a bit raw now, because I mean they used to have this thing when they were even moving the couples around to be together on the brands, and now it seems like they actively don't give a fuck. So I mean it's a bit of a change of corporate mantra, isn't it?
The strong relationships.
Sacking Marina Shafir, sacking Killian Dane, so I don't care.
It must be awkward round the house though, eh? It must be pretty awkward, I'm off to work, honey, or WWE, or fuck them. It must be, it must be really awkward. Anyway, enough about household dynamics. Let's go to Rico's final bury.
The Zelina Vega one was going to be a bury, so I'm kind of going to have to freestyle this one because that's pretty much all I had left, and we've already mentioned Kingsley Nakamura. But I was just looking through the rest of the list of stuff that I have, and SmackDown was actually a really good show this week, in my opinion. So the only things that I can really think of are, I don't know, it's mostly opinion, but folk that saying there's nothing interesting in wrestling. I sometimes see that in the comments every now and again, that there's no good stories, or there's no good matches, or they're not interested because of X, Y, and Z. But even just in that show, how could a person watch that and go there's nothing engaging? There's the Edge storyline, there's the Roman Reigns and the Usos storylines. If you want something funny, there's the Baron Corbin, there's Shinsuke, there's decent wrestling, there's decent wrestlers, there's Kevin and Sami Owens. Kevin Owens in the Sami Zayn match was brilliant. There's that, and the only other burial that I can really think of is that I'm starting to think that there needs to be I think a few more characters cycled into the show. So I think there's maybe a draft coming up soon. Am I right in saying that? So
it's meant to be August, September kind of thing.
It'll be after SummerSlam presumably, but I'm looking forward to there being some new faces on it, because you're starting to see that it's Apollo and Biggie and Shinsuke and whoever all in the same matches all the time, and it needs to get freshened up. But apart from that, SmackDown is a good show, and there's not really an awful lot wrong with it these days.
Yeah, Yeah, I guess it's kind of weird because it's kind of stacked at the top and there's a bit of a kind of bottleneck almost, because you've got Reigns at the top and then they've kind of bottlenecked everything else, so it's really interesting. Match of the night, gentlemen.
For me, it's probably got to be Owens versus Sami Zayn. The old phrase, fight forever. I can quite happily watch them have loads of matches. They had a last man standing match to qualify for Money in the Bank. Owens scored the win with a powerbomb onto the announce table, then proceeding to powerbomb him through another table that was set up, and then pop-up powerbomb onto the ring apron to knock him out for the 10 count. Really good match.
Good. Rico, you with him on that one?
Absolutely, yeah. Kevin Owens as well, having his sort of classic spots. There was the rolling out of the ring to stand on his feet to avoid the 10 count. There was a callback to Kevin Owens' last man standing match with the former Dean Ambrose a few years ago, where he was flipped from the top turnbuckle through 2 tables, and seeing that game was cool. So as Bron says, those 2 can have bangers every single week, and I wouldn't get bored of them.
Nice. Thank you, gentlemen. Behind the curtains, Gary's got 5 minutes to do his Raw Buddies and Putovers because he's got to go and subtitle the news. So, go for it, Gary. 5 minutes to do your Buddies and Putovers of Raw.
Okay, in all honesty, it's quite simple anyway, because it was just it was an alright show. Like I almost said good. It actually was quite good. But my first Putover, I love, obviously RK Bro. We've mentioned how good they are, for weeks and weeks. But Matt Riddle is just doing brilliant every time he's on screen now. I feel like before some of the promos were a wee bit shaky a few months ago, but he was still kind of getting through them. He came in the ring yesterday and done, the stupid thing that they always do, where they have everybody sitting on ladders ahead of Money in the Bank, but they only had him on the ladder and they had commentary say about him, being high in the ring and stuff. And I'm like, that's just good comedy stuff. It's just good. And they had him selling his foot injury, although he didn't do it in the first segment. He done it when he had been, and it made sense because he'd get attacked in the first segment, and then they had him selling it when he done his jump into the ring to try and kick off his flip-flops and couldn't do that. So that was brilliant. And another half Putover that's almost exactly the same was Rhea Ripley doing the same thing to Cell, walking on a crutch, trying to do a stomp and then hurt herself. Just love wee stuff like that. The Berry, I think, will take a lot of people by surprise. Unless they've watched the show, then they might agree with me. For the first time ever, I'm going to bury Drew McIntyre.
Oh!
Promo wasn't good. Promo was really bad. It's Drew McIntyre.
Was it actually bad, or was it bad by Drew McIntyre's standards?
I think it was actually bad. That's the worst part. Definitely bad by his standards, but considering, I always say where his promos always feel natural. There's always passion in them. And I mentioned that I was on a media call with him 2 years ago and I asked him about promos, and he said that the main reason they're good is that Paul Heyman at that time was giving him the freedom. He could read his script, and he said that he would go out there and 4 of the words that he said were 4 of the words on the script and everything else was just ad-libbed. I don't know what and it's not even the first time as well, because they've done it last week as well, I'm sure, and they told this daft story about kicking the head off the Loch Ness Monster, and it's just bad. And I hope it's the end, because it's Drew McIntyre. He's been brilliant for the past year and a half, and if he's going to be getting heavily scripted and cutting bad promos when we're just getting crowds back, I just feel bad for the guy. It might turn out that he did cut it all off the top of his head, but it just wasn't very good. Didn't like it. So other Berry, the other Berry's going to be really vague. Actually, I'm going to give you 2. One quick one is Jackson Riker winning. I'm going to bury that every time it comes up. Jackson Riker winning. Just, that doesn't need to happen. It doesn't need to be on TV. Just get the guy off TV. He's not the next Hulk Hogan. Stop putting him in yellow. Stop having him pin Cedric Alexander, which will no mention why that's bad. But that was bad.
Oh, of course.
Yep. It was also in a tag team with R-Truth, and I'm like, poor R-Truth, man. What you doing to R-Truth?
What do they talk about backstage? It's going to be back to Jimmy, isn't it?
It was bad times. But my other Berry is just a bit of a vague one. And I don't mind it because the actual Rhea Ripley Charlotte Flair stuff was okay. And we did get Drew McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal. But my Berry is the fact that the story's right there. Why can WWE not just go for the story that's sitting right in front of them on a plate? They need to give you some churned out nonsense. like the Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair thing. It was right there. One of them beat the other one at WrestleMania. What else do you need? Like, and they also had the Royal Rumble history before that, and they're both very similar. You need nothing else, but you need to work in these daft wee injury angles. And then, I mean, the Jinder Mahal thing. I mean, for a start, I love the fact that Fashion Corner, Jinder Mahal was wearing a shirt and came in on a motorbike. So we've got the Canadian Indian badass now, which is absolutely incredible. I love it. But it was just a bit, the way they went about getting the story was not very good. Final put over, we mentioned it, Nikki Cross. I just like what they're doing with Nikki Cross. The rest of that match was a bit, but I like what they're doing with Nikki Cross is good, and I can't wait to see where they go with that. And match of the night, since I have exactly 1 minute before I disappear for a minute, match of the night for me, the main event was good and it was nice seeing MVP back, but I'm actually going to go for the Ricochet John Morrison match, because it was Ricochet and John Morrison. Don't I get it to say anything else on that, but they're both brilliant in the ring. Ricochet shouldn't be wearing street clothes, but good anyway.
There you go. Done within a minute. You go subtitle the news, and while you do that, I will say to everyone, if you want to get your buddies and put overs in for Rabbit and Grado, you can do that at Wrestling Daft on Twitter. You can get us on Instagram, Wrestling Daft Podcast, or just plain old Wrestling Daft on the Book of Face. Bronze Cello, Rico, Alex, Gary the subtitler. Go do subtitle the news. Thank you very much. Listen, if you want to get more content out of Wrestling Daft, dead easy to do it. You've heard us talk about it before, undoubtedly. But you can get onto Patreon. We're up there, Patreon, patreon.com/Wrestling Daft. All one word. You're going to get more content from Wrestling Daft up there. You're going to get bonus podcasts. You're going to get early episode access. You're going to get a video version of this very podcast, so you can see the beautiful locks of Alex, who can't currently put his hair into a man bun because the hairdresser made an arse of his haircut.
It didn't make an arse. Josh did a very good job. You be nice to Josh. He's an excellent hairdresser.
Well, he messed up.
Go to Urban Funk. There you go. I've just hijacked your advert to give him an advert.
There you go. Go to Urban Funk. So yeah, you'll get a full video so you can see Alex in all his beautiful HD glory. You'll also be able to come on to our Patreon pay-per-view part. He's going to be doing one for SummerSlam. Bonus episodes, we have got lots lined up. We do promise you we owe you about 2 or 3. We're going to get something from us. You're going to get something from Rab and Grado as well. But there's loads up there to get involved with, and there's loads of posts, loads of archive posts, loads of archive podcasts that you can check out as well. So please get involved. You can choose what tier you come up to. Just throw a bit of money our way. We'd really appreciate it for the work we do. Patreon.com/Wrestling Daft. That's Patreon.com/Wrestling Daft. It's the Wrestling News with Gary Cassidy. Now, we talked about at the start of the show. Let's get into it. It's just kind of broken the last week while, as we've been recording the podcast, Jimmy Uso has been arrested under suspicion of DUI.
Yep. So when I seen this, the first thing I did was check the date, because it's not the first time it's happened. So I checked the date. It did happen last night. Misdemeanor DUI charge, and like the way this is from TMZ, they are normally quite good with stuff like this. So I mean, reported and allegedly, sprinkle them through me saying this for your own ears, but I mean, TMZ have got it for police documents. So what they say happened, as per the police documents, is that Jimmy Uso was driving 50 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour zone, and then ran a red light. Police pulled him over and said that he smelt of alcohol, got him to come out his Dodge Charger, which they even have the brand of the car there, and then they decided to breathalyze him because he was swaying about when they were talking to him. So I can only tell you this in terms of the way I read it, but I don't know what a 0.205 or a 0.202 are, but that's what he blew in terms of the breathalyzer, and the Florida limit is 0.08. Right. So that sounds like quite a bit over the limit.
Yeah.
0.205 compared to 0.08 sounds like quite a lot over the limit. So apparently he was arrested. He is currently, or as per 2 hours ago, still in jail. And the bail is set at $500, which seems like a very low amount considering he's still apparently in jail. Surely somebody would have bailed him out with that, but it might have happened now. But for anyone that might have heard us talk about this, not recently, but a couple of years ago. That's because it happened almost exactly 2 years ago. And then he was found not guilty by a jury last year, which was pretty big news. But he has been arrested several times before that. He was arrested for being in an altercation, allegedly being in a drunken altercation with police like a few months before the last DUI 2 years ago. So no statement for WWE yet. No statement for the Usos yet. We'll see what happens. It's happened before, and these, nothing's changed there. But I think two things that's worth saying. One, if he's conscious of that decision, it's a stupid thing to do, and a very reckless thing to do, and he should have been doing it. But if he's doing it so many times, probably worth him getting a bit of help. Probably it would be nice to see WWE helping him through it, and maybe it would change something. But maybe it can be changed. Who knows?
You just wonder how.
Terrible way to look at it.
I know.
Maybe it can't be changed.
If he's going to keep doing it,
Gary, have you ever thought of becoming an addiction counsellor to get bored of subtitles? Because I think I've got that.
It's the kind of thing where it's like, they should probably just look at you, try and help him through it. But if not, it might be time to maybe take his license off him if he's going to keep getting arrested for the same thing.
Maybe. You wonder if it will affect the ongoing storyline on screen. You hope not, because it's so hot at the moment, and you just hope it doesn't. But I mean, you've got to wrap his knuckles somehow, surely, as a company.
It was literally just on TV in the main event of SmackDown, getting speared by Edge. Obviously a big part of that storyline, and he wasn't a big part of it because he was injured for a long time, and then they just brought him back in. So horrible timing.
Really happy that it was Jimmy and not Jay.
I mean, I wouldn't comment on that, but
someone's maybe getting a big spear and getting written off TV next week.
Well, I mean, it depends what happens. I don't know how I'm not too au fait with the American court system. I don't know how long it takes for a court date to be set and all that stuff. But my God, you don't fancy his chances, do you? Considering the amount of times it's happened. So bad times, but perhaps not surprising based on the amount of times we've seen that headline.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. This is a bit of an unbelievable one that hit me this week. I couldn't believe it. Jim Ross on his podcast, Ground with JR, thinks that Lex Luger will be inducted into the Hall of Fame sometime soon.
So the only reason that I found out that he wasn't in the Hall of Fame this week, because for some reason I was certain Lex Luger was in the Hall of Fame, was that we were actually meant to have another A&E documentary taking place over the weekend on Lex Luger. The trailer got released last week. It looked incredible because for a lot of people who don't know Lex Luger, everybody remembers him being big buff guy. There was speculation that WWE wanted him to be the next Hulk Hogan. He's now paralysed. He's been through quite a bit of horrible stuff in the past, however many years since we last seen him on TV. The documentary looked incredible. The documentary got pulled, and apparently it's because they want it on at a later date, on a Sunday after a pay-per-view, and get a lot of eyes on it. But this was JR talking about Lex Luger because he's been the talk of the town the past week, saying he believes he'll eventually get a Hall of Fame ring, which you would think surely it's Lex Luger. But JR said some of the things that we just talked about, which he was talking about, stuff that Lex Luger had done that wasn't the beneficial on-screen stuff, that was, stuff that happened backstage. Said the embarrassment he'd thrown in the company, but he believes that he will be put in the Hall of Fame. Says he thinks it'll be a popular decision when it occurs because he'll be allowed in his 2 or 3 minutes allocated. Which he also shot on that, said, don't put so many people in, you can give them more than 2 minutes. But he said in the 2 or 3 minutes allocated, Lex Luger has a hell of a story to tell. So it's got to happen. I think if you've got the A&E documentary coming out, probably wouldn't be too unreasonable to think it's probably going to happen soon, because they'll, the way WWE works, they like capitalising on their own morphed history story. So if they're going to chuck the documentary out, you'd imagine it's probably going to come soon.
Yeah. I mean, it's well deserved. I mean, obviously the job he did at WCW and the Lex Express. Who could forget the narcissist over at WWE? The
big body slam on Yokozuna on a military ship
on July the 4th, which is probably why they were going to put out the A&E document. That makes sense. There we go. And finally, there's been a few dark matches been going on over in Raw, and one involved a returning competitor, as Miss Tegan Knox was spotted doing a dark match.
Aye, so over the past few weeks, obviously we've not been doing this show, but I'm sure we'd have spoke about these beforehand. We had Shotzi Blackheart, Karrion Kross. I can't remember who else. Tony Storm. I believe Bronson Reed. So we've had a lot of people being involved in dark matches. We've not seen any of them on television. Main event, obviously, nobody really watches main event. But they've been on main event and they've been just in dark matches, before the show starts. One of them last night, Tegan Knox, who we've not seen for a long time now, a hell of a time with injuries she's had. The kind of person where it always seems like she's on the cusp of being, NXT Championship. We had the massive angle with Dakota Kai one of the last times we've seen her, which feels like forever ago. We've had the wee thing happening on NXT the past few weeks. They've got the worst charge on the world. It's taken them about 4 weeks to get up to 81%, I believe it's at now. A lot of talk. That's going to be Tegan Knox, and she's just appeared on not appeared because we've not seen her, but she's just been at Raw, been in a dark match. PW Insider saying that was part of a dark match and worked with fellow NXT star Tony Storm. Obviously, her first appearance for a long time. August 2020 was the last time. And yep, she was on NXT last. You'd probably imagine that's where she's gone back to, unless, that phone battery thing, the only other person I can think it being would be like a Kona Reeves. We've not seen him for a long time, but it would seem more likely to be Tegan Knox. So looks like we might get her back, but it's going to be interesting to see if this actually goes anywhere with us having, NXT talent in dark matches, because Vince McMahon was at the Performance Center last week, apparently on a scouting mission. So you wonder if this is part of a scouting mission, or maybe if they're going to try and integrate NXT a bit more.
I seem to get the hint that obviously Bronson Reed dropped the North American title to Isaiah Swerve Scott and Hit Row. There, you just think he's not had it for long, and you're really building him, and you just think Vince has had that one look at it and go, "Who's this guy?"
It seems like Vince has watched his entrance and went, "Get him up." Get
up, that's me, sold, big guy. Yeah,
it looks like the kind of guy Vince would love. Obviously, Tony Storm, I've seen wee bits of her in the Royal Rumbles and stuff like that.
I'm surprised she's never made a bigger impact in NXT, to be honest. But
maybe this was the time, and then they went, get her up as well.
Karrion Kross is another one.
Karrion Kross. That's obvious that like him. Scarlett, she was on Raw as an enhancement talent, wearing a Sasha Banks t-shirt years ago, and then she's ended up signed, so obviously they're a fan of her.
Well, with Kross, you'd always argue for him, it's always been a case of when, not if. And like NXT was more go prove. It was
not hurt anyone. Try not hurt anyone.
It was more just like they were just, how to put it, they were just confirming their bet. They were just like, right, we think you're going to be big. Let's just make sure you are going to be big. Yeah. Okay, you are going to be big. Let's bring it up.
Like a wee trial. It always seemed like for me with Karrion Kross, the person that I would compare it to, and I hope his singles career goes a wee bit better. But for me, I think he's always reminded me of what they had, even though it's very different, with Bobby Roode in NXT, where the presentation and everything is so good that they've just looked at it and went, that'd be amazing on Raw SmackDown, and then it's just a waiting game. So
yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Listen, that's it for the news this week. Thank you very much, Gary.
Cheers.
So that's it for this week's Wrestling After Marks. We have been back. We'll be back again next week as well. Please rate, review, subscribe on Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, all that jazz. Guys, got to rush off and subtitle more news in a minute. Remember, Rab and Grado back with the main event on Friday. They are going to talk about the best celebrity in wrestling. I can't look beyond Bad Bunny after his performance at WrestleMania.
Bad Bunny, Shaquille O'Neal. This year is blown out the water. So
yeah,
Stephen Amell,
Alex.
The resurgence of Mr. David Arquette. Yes, I most definitely have been watching Dark Side of the Ring recently, haven't I?
So they'll be talking about that and have all your buddies put over all that jazz. Remember, you can check out the video version of us, see Alex's wonderful hair and its lovely HD camera, which is beautiful. You can do that at patreon.com/WrestlingDaft. You can get merch, shop.spreadshirt.co.uk/WrestlingDaft. Gary, where can we get you on Twitter for all the wrestling news?
I have hardly been on it the past few weeks, but Wrestling Gary, where I'll be sporadically posting news stories and obvious stuff. So
And Alex.
Don't really know anymore.
Brilliant. There we go. You get me at producer Mac. Until next time, let's hope it's not coming home. And you keep marking out.
Audio Frontier.